Everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk and I'm Heidi Smith. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United Kingdom, and today I thought we'd do a bit of Christmas crafting using the lovely Snowflake Splendor Suite, which is the Snowflake Wishes stamp set, which has got beautiful snowflake images and sentiments, and it's a big stamp set, so the images are bigger than they appear on the front. Double checking the catalogue to see the sizes of those, and that comes in a suite which has coordinating dies and paper and all sorts of other things. So the dies are beautiful. I haven't used this big one yet, but you can see that the these cut out the stamped images. You can cut snowflakes separately, and this most beautiful frame, which is part of our stitched nested labels, and it cuts out this sort of shape with the snowflake coming in from the outside and spreading onto the outside as well, which is really pretty. And then the gorgeous snowflake winter snow embossing folder, which is really detailed, and that means that when you use it to create a card, you get this lovely effect here. So you can see a really detailed snowflake, and this is that aperture. So I've cut an aperture and we've stamped it. We've added a bit of the lovely balmy blue glimmer paper that's part of the suite as well, which is really shiny. And again, it's a no shed glitter paper. So if you've used glitter paper before and ended up with it all over the place, this one doesn't shed like that. And then just to finish it off, the blue adhesive backed gems, and you can see here a real sparkle on those as well. So obviously I've done a bit of preparation in advance as well, so I can talk you through what I've done, but obviously the stamping and things we will be doing. So to start off with then, what you're going to need is a card base. So the one I've created is 29 centimetres long by 10.5, which I've scored at 14.5 centimetres. That's to create my tent-fold card base. Then we're going to need a layer of the glimmer paper. Now, you know, obviously if you used a whole sheet of that, you're going to waste an awful lot, and we only need a frame. So all I'm going to do is pop that in at 1.5 centimetres, and I'm going to cut down from 1.5 to about 12.5 centimetres, and then do the same on all four sides. So from 1.5 here down to sort of 8.5. And I'm keeping it 1.5. That gives it a bit of sort of a bit of strength still, and say down to 12.5. I don't know. I said this is 14 by 10 centimetres. Dimensions in inches I will pop on my blog for you. And if you come across a corner where you haven't quite gone in, it should release. If not, just come in with your snips and just finish that off. There you go. And obviously this piece then you can use for your die cutting or other pieces, but you know that's not going to be seen, so you don't want to waste that piece of glimmer cardstock. So that's our sort of kind of frame. We're then going to cut a piece of card to go on the front, and this is 13.5 by 9.5 centimetres, and we're going to do our die cutting on that. I tend to, you can do it either way. You can stamp first then die cut, or you can die cut first then stamp. I'm going to die cut first then stamp. So just place your image, your die, in the centre. You can measure that if you want, or you can just eyeball it. And then I use a piece of washi tape just to kind of hold that in place. So just pop that in there and run that through the die cutting machine. And then when you come back, I push the centre out, but there we go, there's our die cut panel to go on the front of our card. So this is going to sit, lovely, I've just put a mark on that, on the front there. So that's going to either be covered up by a gem or by some stamping. So let's get on with the stamping then. So for the stamping, I'm going to use some Misty Moonlight and the Balmy Blue, which are the sort of inks I've got here. And then I'm going to use, I used the kind of multi, what I call like the multi snowflake. which is this little one here, which I'm just going to pop on a block. You see that's kind of got a multi-snowflake. And then you could use any of the other ones. I used one of the larger ones before, but you could just as easily go in with one of these more detailed ones as well. So I'm going to use that, and let's see how that works out for us. Never quite know. Now, one of the things I tend to do is I try and put my ink pads with my stamps so that I don't get too mixed up. So I'm going to come in with this largest one in the darker colours. I'm going to try and hide that finger mark there. And again, I'm not always going in the same place. I'm coming off slightly. Oh, I'm managing to make a real mess of this. Oh, lovely. Someone should have cleaned their hands before, shouldn't they, Heidi? There we go. Okay. I think this one might have to be redone afterwards, so we'll see how we go. When you come in, just pop in. And as I say, because they're kind of light, you can kind of stamp over as well. And you get a really pretty effect. So you've got this lovely balmy blue snowflakes coming in, and then just have a look for any gaps you might have. Like I've got a little bit of a gap on the side here, so just come in again there, a little bit more at the top. There we go. And then pop my ink pads away so I don't do any more damage. So what I'm going to do now, this would be a perfect place, add a bow maybe, I think that might be required, or to the bottom there. So now what we need to do is layer up. So the first thing we need to do is cut up a piece of card for our embossing. So this piece here is quite a bit smaller than our outer piece, so it's just 8 by 12 centimetres. And what I'm going to do is rather than emboss it and then try and stick this die cut snowflake to it, what I'm actually going to do is emboss it at the same time. And what that does is when you run it through the embossing folder, it helps to kind of almost inlay the image. So what you do, and it really bonds it well onto your piece of card. So you just add your glue over the back there, just little dots, not too much, you don't want it squeezing out, just enough to hold it in place. If you've got a bit of extra, move it around a bit, and then you can just pop that in the middle of our piece of card like so. So it doesn't look very inspiring until of course you put it through your embossing folder. And all we're going to do is just pop that in there and run that through the die cutting machine. And here you go, this is what you're going to come out with. So you can see here, it's actually really pressed right in onto that lovely effect. So hopefully you can see it's kind of flattened it right in. And that enables us to line it up really well with our other layers. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add, with wet glue, with Tombow, I'm adding this onto glitter cardstock. So when adding onto glitter cardstock, it can be a little bit tricky, and I find that the Tombow, just because it's a kind of rubbery glue, seems to just really grab that so much better. So I'm just going to line that onto there to give our gorgeous glittery frame, complete with my very grubby fingerprint on the bottom there. Okay, then this is going to go, but we're going to add some dimensionals. So big dimensionals needed. I mean, obviously you could use strips if you wanted to, but I'm going to just make sure I pop an extra couple onto the corners here to really hold it well into place. Because what you don't want is your frame collapsing when you've gone to all the trouble of adding it to it. So I'm probably adding a few more dimensionals than you. I'm normally very frugal with my dimensionals. but not today. So what I'm going to do is take these inner dimensionals off, and then lay that on top. So that's my kind of inner circle, and that helps me just line that up. And it doesn't matter whether it's straight or not from the reverse, because you're not going to see that. As it happens, it actually is fairly straight anyway. And then that piece can now go straight onto the front of our card. And I just wanted to add a little something to the centre of that. So I'm just going to add one of these beautiful faceted shapes onto there. And I'm just wondering whether in fact to add some more to that bottom corner. No, I think it's going to be I might add our ribbon. So we could actually add a strip of ribbon across the bottom there to add to it, and I can actually tuck that underneath if I use a bit of red tape. So this is on the fly. So I'm adding a piece of red tape to the reverse of this stunning ribbon. So that's going to go underneath, and some on the other end as well there. What I should have done is probably done this before I constructed my card. But just to show that you can still do it, what you need to do is tuck that underneath that corner. Yep, I'm just going to trim that down very slightly, so because I've got my dimensional in the corner. Pop that across, and then I'm actually going to cut that a bit smaller now, add another little bit of red tape to it. And if you give it a good squeeze before you try and pull the lining off, you should be fine with your red tape. And all I'll do then is just pop that underneath with the help of my either my pokey tool or my take your pick tool. There we go. That can just go under there. And then just create a little bow for that bottom corner. And this ribbon's quite firm, so you'll find it once it's tied, it will hold its shape really well. So yes, adding a little bow to the bottom there, another opportunity for embellishment. Oh, that was a punch hitting the floor. I'm glad it hit the floor, not my toes. There we go. So not quite what I'd have chosen, but hopefully it does the trick of covering up my horrible fingerprint. And there you go, a pair of gorgeous Snowflake Splendour cards. I think I prefer my smaller snowflake on this one to the large one. What do you think? If you'd like to have a go at making this project, pop along to my Stampin' Up shop to buy the stamp set and the dies or whatever it is that you'd like, or pop along to heidismith.stampinup.net and you'll find links to my shop there as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of my videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.